them golden crowns around the glassy sea. Cherubim and seraphim falling down before thee, which were and are and evermore shall be. Holy, 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 though the darkness hide thee, though the eye of sinful man thy glory may not see. Only thou art holy, there is none beside thee, perfect in power, in love and purity. Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, all the works of heaven, earth and sky and sea. Holy, 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 merciful and mighty, God in three persons, blessed Trinity. John's Gospel, chapter 5, verses 1 through 9. Encounter of Jesus with a person who had been sick and lying, unable to walk for 38 years at the pool of Bethsaida. Have you ever felt sorry about yourself, about that you asked, how are you, to someone? I remember that I asked a guy, how are you? We ask everybody, how are you? And he said, well, I was fine until you asked. I felt sorry for myself for asking. Sometimes we feel sorry about ourselves asking somebody, because you get a lot more than what you wanted to ask. But here is a guy who was paralyzed for 38 years, and then lying there begging for money in this situation. And Jesus walked by and asked him, do you really want to get well? Well, the question doesn't seem to be very reasonable for a sick man. He probably does want to get well. But Jesus asked that question, but he got an answer that was more than needed, a lot more than he needed. So the simple question was really, do you really want to get well? And the answer was, well, I don't have anybody to get me in the pool. The question and the answer are not wedded to each other. Jesus did not feel sorry for himself for asking him. He continued. And he continued to talk and have encountered this with this. That is about Jesus that we see in all the conversations. Jesus does not give up on people. Sometimes we do. Like the person who asked me, that responded to me like that, I just walked away from him. I didn't know what to answer it. But Jesus does not. He will go further, because he knows more than you and I do about people. And he knows that there is more need to that person than you can see in front of him. A lot of people were walking by that man that day, and along with that person, a lot of other people were lying there too, begging for money in various different situations. But this was one particular person that Jesus stopped and looked at and had an encounter with that person. If you look at my life and your life, that is what happened one time or other. Among all the crowds and people among us, around us, and our friends and families, Jesus came and stopped at you as one person and started an encounter. And that's how our life was changed. God knows each and every one of us where we are and what situations that we are going through. And he will not pass by anyone who is in need without noticing them and without stopping there to help them. And that's what Jesus did here, and he stopped there And he asked this man a simple question that, do you really want to get well? Many times we hear from the world that God helps those who help themselves. Is that in the Bible? It's not in the Bible. But that's not a good statement either. God helps those who help themselves. That is something that you hear a lot. But to us as people, we know that God helps people who cannot help themselves. That is what God does. So it's not like the world says. It is God who always looks for people who are not able to help themselves. He is there to help them. We are all witnesses or we have experienced those kind of situations in our lives. Beyond ourselves, the situations where nobody could help, God stepped in and helped us and rescued us from those situations. So God is a God who will help people who are not able to help themselves. And if you look at the verse 4, in many versions of the Bible, it is not there. Only King James Version is there. Verses are there with little notes at the down. But King James Version has it there, verse 4. So the fact, of course, is that the pool of Bethsaida, like many other pools in Jerusalem, is an intermittent spring. So these people were lying around this pool waiting for an angel of God to come and stir up the pool. And they believed that during that time there is some kind of a miraculous power come through that water. So anyone who gets in first will be healed. That's what we read there. A lot of people, a lot of scholars are saying that this is not a natural phenomenon in many pools, but because of the geography in that area, when a lot of rain happens in certain parts of that hills, and the water comes down there, and there are reservoirs of water that keeps collecting, and all of a sudden they burst, and then it will flow down the stream, and wells like this will have a sudden rise in water. That's probably what happened there. It's probably nothing miraculous. But people took this as some kind of a miraculous event, and it happens even now, right? You will see a lot of people gathering around churches and trees and temples and see that there's like miraculous things happening there on certain time of the year, and sick people go there. It happens in many countries, in many societies. So same thing here. People were waiting for this water to rise and have a miraculous power come through that water so that they can get healed by jumping into the water. But the problem with this man was that he was lame and he could not get up. He was paralyzed. And he has been there for 38 years waiting for this to happen. That's a long time to wait. And he was still waiting for that to happen. 38 years and counting is a long time to do anything. Not to mention sitting in front of a pool or at the side of a pool waiting for the waters or somebody else. So the man took his place with many other people. After all, like misery does love company, as we say it. Then Jesus comes to him and asks him, do you want to get well? Well, the question doesn't really make any sense, and of course he wants to be healed. That's why he was there. After all, he is lying beside a pool that was supposed to heal people. And Jesus asked that simple question, really, do you really want to get well? There was a meaning behind it, why Jesus asked that question. Because Jesus must have asked a specific question for a reason. On the surface of it, it may be a silly question, but there are reasons and lessons to be learned from it. There are two things that we notice in this man here. First, here, Jesus looked at him and learned that he was there for 38 years, and he still doesn't have a plan. Well, he does have a plan, but it's the wrong kind of plan. His plan is to have someone help him to get him into the pool. That's what his plan is. And the second thing that he was doing, or Jesus was trying to tell him, was that he continues to keep on trying the failed plan over and over. For 38 years that plan never worked. and he still hopes that it's going to work and still stay there. And notice his answer, that his answer is not directly to the question that Jesus answered. His answer is that I have no one to help me. So the whole plan of what he was trying to do was in the wrong side, on the wrong direction. He was trusting someone else as a human being to come and help him to help get in the water, when there ultimately his help has to come from God. And that's what Jesus was trying to tell him. Brother, you don't have a plan. Even though you have a plan, and you know that it has failed you for 38 years, you still continue to repeat that plan and you get the same result. If you want a different result, definitely you want to change your plan, right? If you have the same plan over and over again, you get the same result. But if you want a change in result, you have to change your plan. That's what Jesus was trying to tell him. And also, this man already figured his problem out. What was his problem? His problem was not being sick and paralyzed. His problem was nobody is helping him. That was his problem. So he already has figured out his problem, which is not the real solution to his problem, because nobody is going to help him, because everybody else is there for the same reason, to get in first. And you and I, if in the same situation, we'll get him jump in first. He's not going to be anybody's priority when the water starts to come up. And that is another lesson that we can learn from this, that we sometimes have everything figured out already. And then let God know what the solution is. God, we have figured out everything that we are going through. This is what I need. Give me that now. I need somebody to help me out in this pool. That's what he was asking for. But that is not the solution that God has for you. Even though you figured out all your problems and you figured out the solution for you, then you ask God and present him with all the solutions and say, God, approve this. But God wants you to change our plan and change our direction. Because God has a special plan for us. A plan that is good for us in our future, not to destroy us or harm us. A plan to flourish us and prosper us. A plan that is better for anything we have ever planned for ourselves. So the man, even though he figured out his problem and his solution, Jesus told him a different way of looking at his condition. Jesus did not tell, oh, okay, I'm going to help you. I'm going to stay here and help you out. When the water comes up next time, I will help you go in the water. Or Jesus said, okay, I will find somebody to come and help you. Or things like that. The man was looking at something similar solution for this problem. But Jesus gave him a different solution. He said, get up, pick up your mat and walk. Jesus said the strangest thing that he could ever imagine in his life, and saying the thing that he had not been able to do for 38 years. Jesus said, get up and take up your mat and walk. So in other words, your plan has failed you. You have to have a different plan, and the solutions are different. Here is my plan for you, and here is my solution for you. I want a change of situation from where you are now. And that's the only way you can do it. Get up and pick up your mat and walk. Many times we look for instant blessings, instant healing, instant transformation. And we think that we can achieve these things through our plans, our means. The condition of many of us today is that we are waiting for something to happen in our lives, and praying for it and waiting for it and praying for it and waiting for it, with no real hope of achieving it. I'm sure this man probably has given up on his hope of ever getting healed. He was probably very comfortable where he was there with getting the money that he can collect and stay on with his life. That's probably what he was doing. With no other people in sight or plan in sight, that leaves this man with no real hope or no way to change his condition. Jesus comes up with this condition, the strangest one that he could ever imagine or think of. I'm sure he was scared to death when he heard that words from Jesus. Get up and pick up your mat and walk. The man did not say a simple yes for the answer of getting healed. Being well holds more responsibilities. Being well holds more accountability. There will be a complete transformation of his life. The deeper question that Jesus was asking was, do you really want to be transformed? So when we are puzzled with questions and we are puzzled with our situations and we don't know what is going in our lives, we need to ask ourselves that Jesus or God is asking us, do you really want to be transformed? If you are willing to take up the mat and walk, yes, there's going to be power coming to you and changing your situation. And that we are trying to leave out certain things in our lives that are bothering us. Hatred, violence, and wickedness and evil things that are around us that we are trying to bind us. We are trying to reject them and renounce them. But in order to do that, do you really want to have a change in your life? Then Holy Spirit can work through us and in us to change those habits around us. It happens to anything. To change our habits or behaviors, to change, to lose weight is another thing a lot of people complain about. But do you really want to do it and have a commitment to do for doing that? Too often we plod along in very different bad situations and conditions, craving to be healed, yet resisting any change whatsoever. So Jesus said to get up and stand and walk. When he said to pick up the mat, he was removing all possibility of a relapse. Because if you leave the mat there and walk, he probably can come back and stay there again, because the money that he was getting probably was an attraction to him. He said, don't leave the mat there either. When you are going to walk, you get up and take up your mat and do not leave anything behind and go and walk. And then also walking, that something that never hit him for about 38 years. And Jesus was telling him, do not expect anyone else to help you. You have to walk on your own, and I am going to make you walk today. Many people want to be carried away after that they are healed. They expect everybody to gather around them and keep them going. Jesus says, yes, you can do it on your own. I am the one who will make you walk on your own, provided you are willing to take up your mat and walk. We all can see ourselves in a sense in this picture. We are helpless, weak and crippled and lame in many occasions and many times, lying just like that man at the pool of Bethsaida. Bethsaida means house of mercy, without having been receiving mercy for 38 years. We all can find ourselves paralyzed at times, unable to do the things that we want to do and we ought to do. We find ourselves lame and we do walk very weak and spiritually disformed. Jesus wants us to be whole, that you do not have to wait around without hope. You can get up and go beyond where you have not imagined. Jesus asks us the question today, and he is looking for an honest answer. When he is asking you, do you really want to get well? He's asking us, are you ready for a transformation? Are you ready for a change in your life? Can we trust God to change and transform our situation? Can you let go of your fear of change and allow God to make everything new in our lives? A new life, a new way of living. That is the good news Jesus is bringing to us. As we continue with the journey of Lent during this time and looking forward to Easter, God is asking us a question. Are you ready for a transformation? Waiting for an honest answer from each and every one of us. If we say yes, He is going to give us the power to walk in our situations. Do not leave anything behind, but to go forward with our lives. May the good Lord bless us with these words as we go from this place. And I know, Lord, I have was free.